So then in 2016, I
Correct.
believe, and please now connect this because we got to I guess three different things. Closing the loop on what happened with Blas Compaoré. Then this new uprising, a
Right.
third wave of the African awakening.
Correct.
And also your home in this really, I mean, Museveni
Right.
is like, to me, in some ways, when I think of him or someone like Omar al-Bashir,
Right.
they are actually, they're not just, what a bad leader. I mean, they are literally bad leaders in
Right.
Africa, but they are the prototype of the Trumps, of the Orbans, of the Bolsonaros, of what people are experiencing. What we have supported overseas is sort of
Yes.
coming here, but there's a movement in Uganda too,
Yes,
and it's
there
all
is.
part of the same loop. So what happened in Burkina Faso in
Okay.
2016 and then link it with Uganda and these new...
Right, 2016, they had the election by that time because by 2014, they had driven Blaise Compaoré away. He tried to extend himself. After 27 years, he wanted to change the constitution again. And they went to the symbol, which is the parliament, the youth, and they burned the parliament down. And that's when his own officers knew they were serious. And they said, listen, we don't all want to go down with you, so you have to go.
Right.
And he fled the country. He tried to make a comeback through one of his generals that was still involved about a year later in a botched coup. That general ended up getting locked up too. They had elections, so hopefully they're moving in the right direction now. And the youth feel at least that they're empowered because they played a role in changing the leadership there. Okay, so now we had recent changes in the Sudan. We had recent changes further up in Algeria, where you saw young people came out in massive numbers in the streets. And in Algeria, they had a pretend president, Bouteflika, a guy who was semi-comatose on a wheelchair, and people giving the fiction that he was somehow running the country.
It was like a weekend at Bernie's presidency.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and he was supposed to run again for a fifth term. And people said, no, enough is enough is enough. And then from there, the same action spread to Sudan, where Omar al-Bashir has been a dictator for 30 years now. It started as a food protest, a bread protest. Bread is one of the major staples, particularly in the urban areas. The price went up by 300%, while the size shrunk by more than 50%. You needed a license to buy more than, I think, 10 quantities of 10 loaves of bread. So it was, the people are really pressed. And then, of course, the country has this tremendous debt as well, $10 billion. So people are really being sucked, and they said enough is enough.
Well, what about now? Because that's, and this is important in Sudan, because there's a really vicious, horrific crackdown happening right now.
There's a counter reaction.
And so this is what they're dealing with, because what people have learned just even in the modern cycle, I mean, Egypt is the quintessential example. You can't just get rid of the head. You have to get rid of this whole system.
Exactly.
And so Omar al-Bashir-ism still exists in Sudan.
Yes.
Even the way that what's targeting the protesters are these gangs and militias. That's what you used in Bosnia. That's what all governments use.
Absolutely.
So when you have this new wave of awakenings, they have to deal with dictatorships, systems of plunder and patronage, and the outside interference of places like the United States.
And us here, the conscious folks in the U.S., we need to lend our voice to this, because it's not like we're completely blameless either. It's a government here that we may detest, but, we are, as citizens in this country, we need to play a role in saying that, no, it can't be business as usual. We won't just stand back and see the Sudanese being massacred, probably from Western, with weapons that probably come from the U.S. or Britain or France. Anyway, so yes, you're right, the militia, these are elements that used to be in the Janjaweed, the folks who were committing all those atrocities in Darfur, are the ones that are commanded by a general named General Mohammed Dogola, and he's the deputy head of this so-called transition system that they had in place. And now he's been convinced, I believe, by Saudi Arabia and the UAE, United Arab Emirates, that no, you need to clamp down now, because Saudi Arabia does not want to lose access to the young Sudanese including teenagers that are being sent to fight on behalf of Saudi Arabia in Yemen. So that's what they don't want to lose. They will do anything, including trying to undermine the ongoing revolution in Sudan. But Sudan has the most highly organized student class and professional class, and they have been successful in the past in getting rid of military dictatorships at least 3 or 4 times, if I'm not mistaken. So if they think that they can really undermine, the casualties will go up, but the Sudanese people are not going to be cowed. I haven't seen a case in the past where they actually pushed a military dictator out and then he came back. So if Bashir is trying to come back, I don't think that's going to work. But the sad thing is, we don't want a civil war going on in Sudan because next door, South Sudan is very unstable. There's a very nasty civil war going on there. So imagine Sudan, civil war, South Sudan, civil war. It'll probably spill into Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is having its own reawakening. That could be upset. And then obviously it would spill in Uganda as well. And as Ugandans are determined to get rid of Museveni, the last thing they need is a civil war spilling into Uganda as well. Because so far, the urban protest is being very effective in Uganda. People are now defying the armed forces and the police for the first time, when the armed forces and police are sometimes sent to arrest politicians that are giving a rally. People physically intervene and grab the politician, whoever is speaking, and protect them. And the soldiers, in the past, this would not be allowed to happen. They would just open fire with live ammo. But I think many of the soldiers now also can see the writing on the wall, that the Museveni dictatorship, after 33 years, is coming to an end. That's my only way to explain what is going on in Uganda today. You mentioned Bobby Wine, the musician turned member of parliament turned leader of what they're calling the People Power movement, the youth movement. In Uganda, the youth make up 80% of the population, and about 85% are unemployed. So it's just a ticking, a time bomb. So I think the regime can see that it's going to be very difficult to steal the next election, which is in 2 years' time. So the next 24 months going to be very, very interesting in Uganda. Will the dictator finally be pushed out? Would he unleash the kind of reaction we are seeing in the Sudan today? Will members of his armed forces be willing to commit those kind of atrocities in a major form? Or will there be a split in the army? Because 2 of the key opposition leaders, Kizza Besigye and General Muntu, who just founded a new party called Alliance for National Transformation, both used to be members of the army as well. They were actually Museveni colleagues who fell out after the first 10 years of his regime, who said, listen, we actually thought you meant it when you said ours would be a 10-year transitional period, we'd write a new constitution, and the country would go back to civilian rule. You lied to us. So both of them are parted ways now. But I bring their names up because they also have significant followers in the military. So the military is not completely united behind Museveni. So they may not be willing to commit outright atrocities collectively against Ugandans.
Milton Allimadi, this is just an amazing journey, and we're going to do a ton more of it on future shows, and you're going to stick around for some of the post-game, I hope.
Sure.
You've just watched a Michael Brooks show video, and you can watch all of our full main live shows every Tuesday night at around 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and subscribe to get all of the clips you want. We're covering the globe. We're focusing on international relations, the intellectual dark web. We're having fun. We're doing deep dives with a lot of amazing guests. Of course, become a patron for the whole thing at patreon.com/TMBS, or subscribe to this YouTube channel and help us keep growing and get that content out there. Subscribe below.